your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, welcome along, and thanks a lot for taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride. Jim Coyle with you as always. Got Jake at the wheel, keeping things spinning. Hope your day's off to a great start, and you've had a great week and ready for the weekend. If not, well, hopefully we can make that happen. Thanks a lot for coming along with us. Great program on tap today, as always. What a great week it's been. Fencing off strong. How about former Indiana Hoosier legend Greg Graham and former teammate, as well as another legend, Todd Leary, as usual with us today. But looking forward to both. But Todd's always a pleasure and an honor to have on. But Greg Graham is added to that mix today. Looking forward to that. Hope you've got a great start. Yesterday, the Big Ten tournament started in Bloomington, softball tournament. We'll talk about that. Also talk to some recruiting. There was a decision made and a decision yet to be made. All of that coming up. Of course, Ethan Morton made his decision last night, and he decided, as most expected, to go to West Lafayette to play college basketball. Another recruit from outside of the state that Indiana has swung at and missed. This one stings a little bit for Indiana, I would think, because it was one of the top targets, again, that Indiana was seeking. It was also from Archie Miller's hometown area. And not only do they lose this recruit, they lose this recruit to arch rival Purdue. And, you know, I try to stay off of social media fans' reaction to it because it's pretty much the same. But I see a lot of I don't want an Indiana player. If they don't want to come to Indiana, I don't want them. Well, if they don't want to come to Indiana, they're obviously not going to come to Indiana. So a lot of that doesn't make sense. And then you see a lot of we don't need 5 stars. This kid's not a 5-star. He's just a good, solid recruit that Indiana didn't get. Again, Indiana has failed to land a top recruit that they were targeting that is from outside of the borders. And the recruiting is at a critical juncture for Archie Miller, in my opinion. You don't have to agree, but I think recruiting has not gone well for him. You know, I've talked a lot about the fact that, to my knowledge, Archie Miller has not placed a player in the NBA. And I'm not saying that's what this kid was looking at, but there's a decision looming today from another top target that has cut his list to Memphis and Indiana. Of course, Lester Quinones is who I'm talking about. Excuse me, widely expected to be headed to Memphis. That would be yet again another recruit that Indiana has swung at and missed. I saw someone ask yesterday, is there a reason for concern? And a lot of fans said, oh, no, there's no reason for concern. Baloney. You can stick your head in the sand if you want. But, yes, there is reason for concern. Kids do not see Indiana with any cachet anymore, especially kids outside of the state. They obviously do not see Indiana with any cachet. But guess what? Kids aren't coming to schools for who their schools are anymore. They're coming because of who's coaching those schools and what they do with the players. That's what they look at. And the truth be told, these players do not see Archie Miller in Indiana as a place where they can come and develop. Therefore, they are not coming to Indiana right now. Some in-state recruits have been landed. Some very good ones, obviously, in Trace Jackson Davis, Armand Franklin. But many have been lost and not landed. So, again, in my opinion, yes, there is reason to be concerned if you are a fan of Indiana. the fan base has stayed supportive as they should. I'm not calling for anything other than that, but having concern is not abnormal. And it's, as a matter of fact, it would be abnormal to not have that concern right now because recruiting is not going well for Indiana. And if you don't believe that, again, you're wearing crimson colored glasses that are very, very dark shaded. Because stop reading Facebook, stop reading fan pages, and go look with actual people who follow recruiting and follow college basketball very deeply and see what they're saying. And you will get a different opinion than that of the vast majority of Hoosier Nation. It is a problem right now for Indiana. There is no elite status being hung on around the neck of Indiana. And they are not landing elite players. Trace Jackson Davis is the exception to that. But because he's an in-state kid, I think that he's bought in to the Indiana aspect and he wants to be a part of that. And that's admirable and good. And he could very well be a part of that, of getting Indiana back to that. I've talked to him about that very thing on this program this week. He wants to be a part of that. And he's got the juice and the abilities to do just that. But he cannot do that alone. He cannot do that alone. He needs other elite players for Indiana to have an elite team. And they are far from elite right now. Love to hear your thoughts. Hit us up on the text line, 812-269-6367. Indiana softball, big win last night as they open up the Big Ten tournament. It looked a little dire early on. We'll talk about that. We'll hear from Coach Shonda Stanton. We'll hear from oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. I had like 1 hour sleep. Left the park. I got home at 2 a.m. There was a severe rain delay that pushed the games back in the middle. I stayed through the very end. Why, I couldn't tell you. Watched Rutgers and Purdue play.
We'll hear from Grayson Radcliffe later.
There you go. That's her. The shortstop who bats cleanup. And I mention that because most teams, the shortstop is not a power hitter on any, like baseball, softball. And, man, she's a little dynamo, packs a punch. They all seem to carry that same determination. Their coach has obviously a willingness to win. You can see that carry over in the players. We'll hear from those guys. Looking forward to talking to Greg Graham on the program today. Man, you don't hear much from Greg. Todd Leary will be along as well. Tim has hit us up on the text line. Said, beating a dead horse here, but we got Lester Quinones' last visit. Maybe that's in our favor. Crystal balls have been wrong before. Also, I can say IU is a better fit. He can come in and get lots of playing time, be the man, play against top-ranked teams and lots of TV exposure. That will help him get to the NBA. And if he's good, the NBA scouts will come. A coach is not going to get you there. It's all you and exposure and playing time. Brother, I appreciate you so much, Tim, but I respectfully disagree. A coach does get players there. They develop players. Yeah, you got to have the talent. But there are obviously places that people go that they end up in the NBA. Development has not been something that has been on the forefront of this staff. Tim made a perfect example. Cal can't coach. Players only go there for the exposure. That's what works for UK. I disagree with the exposure. They're not on TV any more than Indiana is. And if you think Memphis won't be on TV this year, trust me, the networks will scramble to make sure they're on TV. Penny Hardaway and Mike Miller will get every one of those guys will be going to the NBA. Those kids that Cal got to the NBA, quote unquote, got to the NBA, were all going to the NBA. They were already going to the NBA. So I respectfully disagree with that take. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's just my opinion. But Archie Miller has put no one in the NBA. Now, Romeo will change that, but to me, that's by default. He was at Indiana by default. It's not something a lot of Indiana fans want to hear. But again, this is not a fan board, a fan page. It's open session, man. Open session. Truth be told. A lot of players, and not all of them, and I'm not saying programs need to be built on those guys. There's ways to build solid programs without having a roster full of one and dones. I'm not advocating that. As a matter of fact, that would drive me nuts. If I were a fan of Kentucky, yeah, they're winning a lot of games, but they don't win any national championships. And your goal is to build a program to win national championships. And the one and done model has proven that it does not win national championships. But you have to have some of those players on your roster. And you also have to develop the rest of the talent that you have. You can't have a player come in that was a career 42% shooter, but all of a sudden he comes to your program and can't hit water from a boat. We saw that happen last year. There's a reason. Keon Brooks did not choose Kentucky over Louisville because of TV exposure. He would have been on television every bit or more at Indiana. Indiana, the Big Ten has contracts with every network under the sun. CBS, ESPN, Fox. They've got their own network, for gosh sakes. That's not it. Wherever those guys are going, they're going to be on TV. It's about development. It's about getting to that next level. But it takes a mix of elite players and player development. That hasn't been seen thus far. Again, that's not what a lot of fans want to hear, but I'm willing to look at something otherwise. Tim says Cal's a good salesman, not really a coach. I agree with that. I don't disagree with that at all, Tim. I'm not someone who thinks Calipari is a good coach. I think he's a good manager. He out-talents people. That's what he does exactly. But that's also why they're not winning national championships after having the number one recruiting class year in and year out. It didn't do them any good. It was just a factory. Hey, we got a lot more coming up on the program. As I said, Greg Graham is with us today. Todd Leary's with us today. We've got Big Ten softball tournament action to talk about. Indiana gets a win there. We'll hear from coach and players. Stay tuned. We're back with plenty more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hi, this is AJ Moyer, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Jim Coyle with you here as always, and we're grateful to be joined by our good friend Scott Agnes from The Athletic. Joins us now. Scott, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on again.
As always, it's a pleasure, man. It's been a slow week, but all of a sudden it seems like things are just kind of busting loose today, man.
Yeah, no question. There's various things going on, whether you're talking nationally and teams trying to wrap up actual games, or on the coaching search with the Lakers, or just kind of every other team ramping up. In a week from now, they'll be at the Combine in Chicago. So there's kind of a lot going on at this point in terms of NBA.
Yeah, it looks like the Lakers took a page out of the playbook from UCLA's coaching start as they find themselves in a weird situation. We talked a little bit before, but they're trying to hire a coach without having a president in place. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's very much a backward situation. And like I've been thinking here, first of all, if you're a coach, number one, you're going to want your guaranteed money beyond 3 years, like Ty Lue was reportedly offered, but you're also going to want your boss in place. And so it's a situation where you've had several quality candidates in Monty Williams and now Ty Lue most recently turn down the job. And if you're the Lakers, this is further and black mark on your franchise, where they should be the lead of the group. They get the most interest nationally and worldwide, and yet they're having hot coaches that are without head coaching jobs, turn them down.
Yeah, it's kind of like a college coach being hired by one athletic director, and then there being a different athletic director. Everybody always wants their own people in there, and you kind of feel uneasy when you don't have the guy that brought you in over you.
Yeah, and that works both sides, right? You want to not only work for a guy that you have a good relationship with and trust you to do your job, but also have the ability to hire your assistants. And that seems to be also an area, Jim, where the Lakers management stepped in and was like, you know what, we'd kind of like to push these 2-3 guys on you in all that situation. And the head coach, you're around these guys. Anyone with a team, you're around these guys more than anyone, your own family even. So you don't want to go to battle with guys that necessarily aren't your guys, or maybe you have no chemistry with. You want to build guys around you that not only help you, but maybe counter where your weak points are. Or if you're an offensive-minded coach, you want that defensive-minded coach. So, yeah, it certainly works both ways. So I can understand why any coach would come with it from that viewpoint.
Lakers are obviously able to do this right now because they're not in the current NBA playoffs, and the playoffs are rolling. And the Indy guys are having a good time at it. Eric Gordon with a huge night a couple games ago with 30 points. But everybody's having a good playoff run for the Indy guys.
Yeah, and basically every series ongoing right now, you got somebody playing from Indy and doing very well. The lone exception, I would say right now, has been Gordon Hayward, who in the second round just hasn't really found a rhythm or found a groove. But that Celtics team's really been dysfunctional all season long, and this series has been no exception. But, yeah, you mentioned Eric Gordon with the Rockets, George Hill with the Bucks, and even Gary Harris with the Denver Nuggets as well.
And if Kyrie Irving leaves the Celtics, after a lot of people have thought that, of course the talk is going to come up with, is Brad Stevens going to stay? And Indiana people are going to go crazy. Go hire Brad Stevens, because so many people want him. But I don't see him ever leaving the NBA. Well, at least not for a long time.
It's hard to know at this point. I know early on, one of the challenges for him was adapting to the change in schedule. And what I mean by that, Jim, is there's no real practice time after you get a month or two into the season. And then also you miss the relationship part of it. You recruit a guy for 2 or 3 years, and assuming he plays for you, he's there with you like they were at Butler, most guys for 3 and 4 years. So that's like a 6-7 year process, and that you're around guys. And I forget what the exact number is, but I think it was Brad's first year in charge of the Celtics. They had something like 35 different players on their roster go through it, because that was a point where they obviously weren't winning, and they were cycling through players and making trades for the possibility to really boost the roster. And so I think those aspects are difficult. Now, that said, working for the Celtics is one of the storied franchises. You're not having to worry about recruiting and making and taking phone calls at 9 and 10 p.m. about a recruit that's probably going to turn you down in the next week. And you're, of course, coaching some of the best in the world. But coaching is not the number one thing in NBA. in college, coaches run programs. In the NBA, it's a players' league.
And talking about the NBA, of course, the draft is coming up soon. A lot of talk about Romeo Langford. Earlier in the year, he was a top 5, 6 pick projected. And, of course, he has steadily fallen since the season at Indiana. He did not have a great season. Indiana did not have a great season. But he's now fallen out of the top 20 for some of the draft projections. And what that does is that now the Pacers are sitting there at 18 right now, unless they trade, but there's that possibility. We've seen this before with Damon Bailey. Do they go for the big PR hit, or is this a good fit for the Pacers? You follow them as much as anybody, Scott. What do you think about adding Romeo Langford to this mix with a Victor Oladipo?
Well, for one, there's still several things that still have to be determined if you really want to look at those mock drafts, and one of those is the exact teams and with their placement. So we'll have the draft lottery this upcoming Tuesday. That's when the lottery team, spots 1 through 14, will figure out where exactly they're picking, right? And so that obviously changes where a guy might be slotted to and has a good fit, like you mentioned. But to me, it seems like maybe Romeo, he just really didn't have that type of a freshman season that jumps out at you, even though he was one of the top scoring freshmen in the country. And I really do wonder, Jim, how much that injury to his thumb, I think it was, really impacted his shooting too, because that's probably the biggest knock on him at this point, as just like a 19-year-old, is can he shoot and do so from the three-point line on a consistent basis, because we know he can attack. He has great finishing skills and those sorts of things. Now, in terms of the Pacers, they have a lot of various positions and spots they need to fill. Victor's their only starter, along with Miles Turner, that will all likelihood be back on the roster next season that we expect. But Romeo being that lengthy guy in terms of wingspan and his ability to attack the rim and finish, that's intriguing. However, I think what they're also looking for would be maybe something a little more potential for now, a little more potential to shoot and create is really two of the things that the Pacers and Kevin Pritchard are looking for. And that said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers either trade up or trade out of this spot and do something in terms of making a trade or some kind of splash if they can find another deal and another team to make it work, because Kevin Pritchard's really wanting to upgrade this roster. And they have a great flexibility with the amount of money that they can spend or contracts that they could take on, which could allow them to also pick up a prized piece in exchange.
Talking with our friend of the show, Scott Agness from The Athletic. And Romeo has dropped like 15 spots, and that's just in the projections, of course. But every time I see something, it refers to his offhand ball handling and, of course, the shooting. But I don't see a lot of the NBA guys mentioning the injury, and I'm not sure that they're really buying into that. With good reason, probably, but I think with him falling like he did, which I know it's no way that it would ever happen, but it probably would have been a good idea for him to spend a second year in college. But he's going to be a first-round draft pick, so that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, so here's the argument, Jim, right? Of course he's not ready. Most of these guys are not ready or even close to what they could be, say 2-3 years from now. Take, for example, the Pacers. Miles Turner would just now be entering his name into the draft if he stayed at Texas for 4 years. And think about the type of career he's already had, but he still has plenty more room for growth as well. And so you consider maybe Zion's the only true guy that had no business for sure even going to college. He's ready to make an impact, I think, starting next year. Romeo, to me, Jim, reminds me a lot of Noah Vonleh, in that obviously he's a top draft pick. He's a lottery guy. He has so much potential in the league, and that's why you got to, if you're the player, you got to go, because you can't risk being a guaranteed first-round pick and a real likely lottery pick for the chance to go back to school. Maybe you have a season-ending injury or something happens. You got to get it while you can. And so I totally understand Romeo's decision, although we should note he technically could still remove his name from consideration.
Yeah, I'll see that when lightning flies out of my fingertips, but I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon.
I'm just making it clear that it still could be done, because
yeah.
IU, for example, did have 3 other players put their name in consideration for the draft, but the other 3, they did not get invited to the combine among the 66 other players.
Well, now we could probably take a bet on whether or not Romeo stays in the draft, because the big news of the day, Governor Holcomb signs the sports gambling bill into law, and that's a big deal. Indiana becomes one of the first states in the Midwest and only one of 10 in the country with legalized sports gambling. I mean, to me, that's pretty amazing, because you look at some of the other big-ticket items in the country like marijuana. I think the Kremlin will have marijuana legally before Indiana does. And so for them to have sports gambling is pretty a big thing, I think, for the state.
Yeah, I'm with you on several fronts there. First being how quickly Indiana acted on initiating and allowing for this to take place here soon, along with several other things gambling related, like something over in Terre Haute casino. But yeah, this has great potential. And I come from the belief that you're either a real gambler or you're not. I don't see this as X person never really gambles. They start because it's now legal and become addicted. There might be a few individuals, but I don't see that really taking place. And I think that for a lot of people, that was the downside that came with it. So this has real opportunity. Obviously, the revenue for the state, it allows them to make money off some things those dedicated gamblers are doing anyway. And it also is just an interesting thing to watch, especially with these sports teams as they continue to look for revenue themselves and the in-game things. How much fun could it be, Jim, for 4.7 seconds left, Pacers are down by 1. Could you bet, do the Pacers win? Who takes the last shot? Is it a turnover? I mean, those are little things that are interesting on top of just the general things. You bet the line, you try to get parlays and various things like that.
Yeah, the old famous prop bets from the Super Bowl, betting on the coin toss and this, that, and the other thing. It is. It's crazy. Because now everything can be done from your phone. That's what makes it so nuts. It's just like, bam, everything's right at your fingertips.
That's the good thing and the bad thing, right? Because the accessibility, the negative side of that is you can easily get caught up in 5, 10, 15 bets for a game. I had a friend that does some offshore gambling, and we were out one night, and he was tracking like 7 different bets for just one game. For me, it's kind of a headache. I have no idea how people have the type of energy and emotion to dedicate to that. And it really sways your emotion. But also we should mention it'll be interesting to see how this positively or negatively impacts TV ratings a little bit, because if more and more people have something on the line, I think we're going to see live sports TV ratings go up just a tick yet again, as all the rest of television seems to be in a decline because it's very much an on-demand world.
It makes complete sense, Scott. But another thing that really comes to mind that really makes the fact that Indiana is one of these states that has done this is Indiana is home to so many amateur sports headquarters, the NCAA, I think the AAU. Mm-hmm. There's so many others that are there. And I wonder what their reaction is going to be to this.
No, that's fair. I think USA football, USA track and field, gymnastics, I think, for USA is all headquartered right here. Yeah, it's a primetime spot. I'm curious about it as well. My belief might be that if they can get a cut, if they can somehow get a portion of it, then they're all for it, right? That's what it seems to be, is everybody looks with their hand out saying, all right, if this is legal, how can I get my share?
Absolutely. All right, before we talk again, the playoffs that are currently being played in the NBA will be decided at least down to 4 teams. Who do you see battling for East Conference Championship? It's easy on the East side because Milwaukee obviously is going to be one of those teams.
Yeah, but I will say I've also been really impressed with Toronto and what they've been able to do. Milwaukee's also obviously been strong, and that's because they actually have a good coach in place in Mike Budenholzer over Jason Kidd, who kind of wrecked them a couple years ago. And it's just laughable that if the Lakers are even considering him for this head coaching role. But they obviously have Bud and Giannis. And then Toronto also impressed me. So I'd really like to see that in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the West, like I've always continue to be tweeting here, is if anybody's selling their Golden State Warriors stock, please give me a call. I'll buy it all.
Yeah, that's a tough team to bet against. I mean, you can't forget who they still have on that roster.
They have the experience. They have the toughness. They've been there and done that. The only thing we saw this, I think it was in game three recently is that their shots were just off. I mean, with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson combined to make 4 or 5 threes, and that's it, they're probably not going to win. Let's face it, these are two guys that often combine for double-digit threes and have the capability of hitting double-digit threes by themselves. So when you're living and dying by the three, for the most part, that's going to happen. But I really entrust that they'll figure it out. And honestly, selfishly, I hope the Rockets don't advance because I just don't find their brand of basketball entertaining at all. It is just a challenge for me to sit through Rockets games. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of James Harden, I got to tell you. A lot of people are, but I'm not. But, oh, well, to each to own, man, to each to own. Hey, you can follow him on Twitter, @ScottAgnes. Great friend of the show. Scott, we appreciate you so much. Thanks a lot for joining us, man. We look forward to doing it again next week.
Happy to. Have a good week.
Thank you. Scott Agnes from The Athletic. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. It's Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for it each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Graham. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Big show today, as always. Finishing up the week strong. Greg Graham will be on the program, former Hoosier great. We'll have his teammate, Todd Leary, as well. Big day. Looking forward to it. Last night in the NBA, playoffs continue. Out west, Portland knocked off Denver 119-108. Evens that series at 3. There will be a Game 7, much as expected. It's going to be a good one. Gary Harris pumped in, I think, 19 in a losing cause?
15.
15 in a losing cause for Denver. Philadelphia, 112-101 over Toronto, as they are still without the services of OG Anunoby. Game 7 in that series as well. Tonight, Eric Gordon and the Houston Rockets host Golden State at 8 o'clock to see if that series goes to 7 games.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Well, it's 8 o'clock Central Time. My phone keeps switching back and forth between Central and Eastern Time. I have no idea why. I cannot. It's driving me insane. And when it does that, it just computes everything over to that time. Even starting times for games.
Yeah. Probably late for a lot of stuff.
Well, thank gosh, no.
Oh, you'd be early, I guess, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah. It's still. I have no idea why it continues to happen, but it's been going on for a couple of weeks. It's driving me nuts. But Indiana baseball tonight, they are up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, starting a very, very crucial 3-game set. Any hopes of a Big Ten championship will go through Ann Arbor this weekend. Indiana is 2.5 games back of the Wolverines. To have any legitimate shot at a championship, they've got to win this series. They have to win 2 out of 3. They don't have to sweep them, but they've got to get close and hope that they get a little help next weekend. I think Michigan closes out with Ohio State. And I think that's on the road. But Indiana has to help their own cause tonight or this weekend and do something they have not done of late. That's play well on Friday. I think they've lost, I don't know how many straight Friday games. It's been a few. Their hitting has been off. Last week in 4 games, they lost 3 times. Of those 3 losses, they generated 3 runs. The home run hitting obviously offsets some of that. But they've got to get it done in Ann Arbor if they have hopes of winning the Big Ten championship, which, I mean, they obviously do. But for that to be a reality, they're going to have to win this series. It's not going to affect their making it to the NCAA. That's a lock. They've proven themselves on the season. I think that hosting is probably not going to happen, obviously. But now that could also turn around with the Big Ten championship. I don't think that they can host a super regional now under any circumstance, unless they were to go on and win out. And that would include a win over if they get 3 wins over Michigan and a win over Louisville, that changes the story. And it certainly can happen. They have the talent, just have not been playing that way of late. They've had an awful lot of strikeouts this season. A lot of games with double-digit strikeouts. Hopefully they can get things turned around a bit, but they've had a good season. They're in the NCAA tournament, no doubt. Coach Mercer doing a good job with the program. They sure seem headed in the right direction. Lester Quinones, decision day for him tonight. He's expected to go to Memphis. I mean, he was always expected to go to Memphis. Of course, he can shock everybody. I don't expect that to happen because Lester Quinones wants to get to the league. And players do not see Indiana as a pipeline to the league. Joker sent in a text earlier that Cal will push his current players to the NBA rather if they are ready or not, just so he can get the next 5 greatest incoming freshmen. Whether that's true or not, that has no bearing on the fact that kids do not see Indiana as a place to get to the league. The majority of them. Kids outside of Indiana have not shown, well, obviously, none of them are coming. No top targets from outside of the state have been landed. Romeo was landed by default because of what happened in Louisville. So the biggest recruit that Archie has truly landed, you could say, was Trace Jackson Davis. Recruiting is at a crossroads for Indiana right now. A lot of Indiana fans are not going to agree with that, and that's fine. But that's the reality of the situation. Speaking of recruiting, there's a lot of action this weekend. The EYBL is in Indianapolis, up in Westfield. That's where most of the nation's top talent will be. But there's a lot of stuff going on, Jakester.
Yeah,
you'll actually be out there. You'll be out there working one of those tournaments, doing some filming, as a matter of fact.
Yep, I'll be at the Adidas May Classic in Fishers. I'm not sure who all is going to be there. Not even sure what age group it is. It might be middle school. I don't know.
What? Middle school?
Could be. But EG10 Classic is going on.
And now that we had Mr. Gordon on last week, talked about that. That's in a couple different places, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of spread out. Nike Hardwood Invitational is up in Indy, and Midwest Mania is in Westfield. So a ton of AAU tournaments going on this weekend.
All around the state, man. Indiana's the epicenter of basketball this weekend. But you know who won't be there? The coaches. No coaches. Coaches can't come. Sorry, thank you. No, you can't come in. NCAA rule changes prevents that now. Their only open weekend has come and gone. Their only open period has come and gone.
That seems really dumb because that's really the whole point of AAU.
Did you just say something the NCAA did was dumb? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know it's hard to believe, but...
My gosh, that's blasphemy. Muppet Mark is rolling over in his upper balcony with the other old man Muppet. Turning circles. Yeah, that's going to change. That's going to change what was going on, because everything that you heard had everything to do with where these tournaments were taking place and whether or not coaches could watch the players. That's what the problem was. They haven't done anything to address that yet. They've taken very little action. Now, their hand has been forced in a way. The FBI told them to stand down for a while, but I think they gladly said, "Oh, thank you. Thank you for telling us to stand down. We have an excuse to not do anything now."
That was over 2 weeks ago, so they're probably hoping that everybody
forgot about it.
Yeah.
Muppet Mark is just like, what? Huh? Well, oh, Oh, let me get with my people. I'll get a report on that.
We'll
Hit
have
us
a
up.
meeting.
What was that?
We'll have a meeting and talk about
Exactly. Let's have a meeting. And then what they'll do is they'll name another organization is going to take care of that without having told said organization that they're going to be taking care of that, i.e. USA Basketball. Because that is how the National Cheating Athletic Alliance is made up. Hit us up on the text line, 812-269-6367. Greg Graham on the show today. You don't hear a lot from Greg. He's just doing his thing, man. Of course, being in Rhode Island is a big part of that. He's a ways away. He's enjoying the clam chowder. Definitely in clam chowder country up in Rhode Island. But look forward to talking to him. Part of one of the greatest, if not the greatest recruiting class in Indiana basketball history. One that was built on the top players from Indiana. Gee whiz, how many players off of that team played in the NBA? Holy crap. Wow. Just off the top of my head, Greg played in the NBA. Calbert Chaney obviously played in the NBA. Damon Bailey even played a little bit in the NBA. Alan Henderson played in the NBA. Eric Anderson played in the NBA. Didn't Matt Nover play a little bit in the NBA? Brian Evans, I can't remember if he made it or not, but a lot of talent on that team. A lot of top talent from the state of Indiana. Sprinkled in with some other guys, but those guys were developed. Their talents were developed. Something that has not been seen yet thus far. And kids are not coming to Indiana. The high end prospects are few and far between right now. Indiana has missed on every major recruit from outside of the state and lost what would have been the second biggest recruit in quite some time, Keon Brooks, as he was long thought to be headed to Indiana and then changed his mind after Indiana's woes from last season. And it's not because of those woes in itself, but what was perceived to be the cause of that. Those guys, they want to move forward. They want a career after college playing basketball. And if they don't think that that is a viable thing, if you go to Indiana, they're not going to come to Indiana. And again, Archie Miller has not put anybody in the NBA yet in 9 years as a coach. Now, 7 of those were at Dayton, but half the NBA has players from teams that are not major conference, not Power 5 teams.
Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, for example.
Exactly. The expected second pick in this year's draft, John Morant. Where does he go to school? That bastion of NBA talent, Murray State. So they have to see a path. And everybody that listens to this, and instead of saying, being able just to look at it objectively, the response is usually, well, Indiana doesn't need a bunch of 5 stars. I'm not talking about 5 stars. I'm talking about player development. And then every time they lose a player, you see people, well, if they don't want to come to Indiana, you don't want those kids. Well, obviously, they're not coming to Indiana. I think it's an issue. Hey, we're late. We got to take a break. Indiana Sports Beat, back with plenty more after this from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for it each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Come on along and welcome to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Hope your day's off to a good start and you had a great week. Ready for the weekend. If not, hopefully we can make that happen. Great program on tap today. We finished strong as always. Former Hoosier great Greg Graham on the show today, and he'll be followed by another Hoosier great and a teammate, Todd Leary. Looking forward to that. Thanks a lot for coming along. Jake's at the wheel, keeping everything spinning. Hope you're ready for a big day. Lots going on. Last night, the NBA action continued with a lot of Indiana flavor. Not necessarily IU flavor, but Portland knocked off Denver 119-108, even that series as they will head to a Game 7. Gary Harris had 15 points in a losing cause for Denver. Philadelphia beat Toronto 112-101 to force a Game 7 in that series. Toronto still without the services of OG Anunoby. Probably won't have him back unless they make the finals, as a matter of fact. So we'll see how that goes. And then tonight, Golden State goes to Houston to take on Eric Gordon and the Rockets to see if that series goes to a Game 7. So we'll certainly find out. Speaking of Eric Gordon, a lot going on this weekend as far as basketball on the AAU circuit. The Nike EYBL is in Indianapolis, up in Westfield, but there's a lot going on. The EG3 Classic is happening. Jake, there's all kinds of basketball going on this weekend, man.
Yeah, there's about 10 AAU tournaments in Indy this weekend. The Adidas May Classic, Nike Hardwood Invitational, Midwest Mania. I mean, it's just full of basketball this weekend.
One thing that won't be there are the coaches. New NCAA mandates does not allow them. They've had their open period already, so there will be no coaches in attendance. Yesterday, Ethan Morton, the latest IU target to not come to Indiana, and not only that, but he chose arch rival Purdue to take his college skills to college. The thing that makes it kind of a stinger. Not only is he going to Purdue, but he was from Archie's hometown. Archie had put a lot of effort in on this kid, as he has a lot. I mean, he's definitely burning up the recruiting trail, but has come up empty on landing any of their targets from outside of the state. They were able to manage landing Trace Jackson Davis, 2019 Mr. Basketball, Armand Franklin also, and then a grad transfer in Joey Brunk. But right now, they still have 2 open scholarships and no commitments for 2020, which Ethan Morton is actually a 2020 commit. I was kind of surprised to see that because a lot of kids are not committing early now, at least the more high-profile kids, but there's one that did. Lester Quinones makes his decision this evening as well. Widely expected to be going to Memphis. Now, he was always expected to go to Memphis, or at least it's been that way for quite a while. Indiana tried to make a late push, but even though it's down to Indiana and Memphis, according to Quinones, he is expected to take his talents south to the land of barbecue and blues. IU baseball, an important 3-game set tonight up in Michigan. Indiana currently sits 2.5 games back of the Wolverines in second place as Michigan leads the Big Ten race. Indiana can change that. If they can win that, at least win that series, they'll put themselves in a position to where get a little help next weekend from Ohio State as the Wolverines will close out the Big Ten season in Buckeye country. And Indiana will welcome in Rutgers, but they've got a game with Louisville in between that. They've kind of been on the snide a little bit. They've lost 3 out of their last 4. But we'll see how that goes. That 3-game series starts tonight. The Big Ten softball tournament is underway in Bloomington. It started last night. It took a while to get it done. The last game ended around 1 a.m., I believe. Couple different rain delays. But Indiana managed to win their opening game against Penn State 4-2. Started a little rough. They had their ace, Tara Traynor, on the mound. And, man, she got touched early. Gave up a walk and a 2-run home run. And the control was not quite there. It kind of routed her a little bit. But she settled down, got through 4 innings, got some support from her team. They weren't getting the hit. There were only 8 total hits in that game last night, 6 of them by Indiana, I believe. But they had to go to what's called small ball. And they went after they got a couple runs in the second, I believe. They come right back in the third and got really aggressive. 3 straight bunts, a double steal to get the winning run across and an insurance run. Let's hear from Coach Shonda Stanton, see what she had to say.
Is to manufacture some runs at times, especially off of a good pitcher like Parshall that they have in the circle. You know, you look at the Penn State weekend last weekend, we had a $176, they had a $128. So we thought we had to scratch runs across early, and then we could go ahead and see what we could barrel up. And it just kept opening up for us, the bunt and the double steal. And we had our best, for TT is awful fast over there at third. And it was a situation that we talked about this week that we knew they'd throw through with the second baseman covering. And we know the times. We know what it takes from the catcher to throw it to 2 and what it takes to get back. And we know our time from third to home. So if you get the right read, then you're going to be safe at home. And our kid did a great job executing. Couldn't be any more prouder of what TT Hart did at the bottom of the lineup, right?
Absolutely. She's on fire today.
That's Coach Shonda Stanton talking about getting aggressive and doing what they had to do to scratch out some runs, and it worked to perfection. As they got aggressive, man, got those runs across, and thank goodness they got their game in without any rain delay. And the rain delay came in after their game. The officials saw that there was a big storm cloud coming. They put the tarp down. Lo and behold, it wasn't a half hour later. Bam! It came and came hard. But they ended up getting that game in. Purdue would beat Rutgers in that late nightcap. But congratulations, Indiana. They move on. Today they've got a tough one. Again at 4:30, they'll take on Northwestern out at Andy Moore Field. Going out and give them the support. But it's a great – if you're into softball, a lot of great softball going on. So we've got that going on. Indiana looking to bolster their chances to make the NCAA tournament. They're currently sitting 48th or so before the Big Ten tournament. Last night's win will help them a little bit. Penn State, obviously not a great team. They're the 10th seed. But it kind of redeems them from a loss they had in a 3-game series with them. I think it was just last weekend. So wish the Hoosiers luck on that side so they can make the NCAA tournament. Coach Shonda Stanton doing a great job getting that program rolling. Hey, we've got a ton coming up. Greg Graham joins us next, former Hoosier great. Looking forward to this. It's a good one. Stay tuned. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hey, Porter, it's getting light outside. This old train is puffing smoke and I have to strain my eyes. But ask that engineer if he will blow his whistle, please. 'Cause I smell frost on cotton leaves and I feel that southern breeze. Hey, Porter, please get my bags for me.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Graham. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle sitting in with you as always, and we couldn't be any prouder and fortunate right now to be joined by one of the all-time greats from Indiana's, Greg Graham. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Man, it's been a long time. You've kind of escaped the limelight a little bit here in the last few years. Catch us up on what's going on in the life of Greg Graham.
Well, for the past almost 4 years now, I've been living in Rhode Island, which is quite a distance away from Indiana. I'm still coaching basketball out here, but it's not basketball country, and but I make the most of it.
Yeah, certainly you get your plentiful amounts of clam chowder, I'm sure, up there. It's a great, beautiful area up there.
It's a beautiful area, great seafood, great beaches, everything that you want in Indiana. But, again, it's not basketball country.
Yeah, how is it difficult to keep up with it's not like they don't have electric or TV up there, but are you able to follow Indiana or the college game like you were with the schedule you keep?
I am able to watch some games when they're on national television. But outside of that, this is hockey country, but I do get the Big Ten Network. So if they are playing on the Big Ten Network, ESPN, or one of the major networks, if time permits, I do get a chance to watch them.
With the NBA draft coming up, you look back, you were drafted in the first round. Went to the Charlotte Hornets back then. Played 5 years in the NBA. And right now the NBA playoffs are going on. Eric Gordon, a former Hoosier, also playing right now with the Rockets. But the NBA game today, it's a huge difference between the NBA game of that era you played in.
Yeah, the area I played in, it was more physical play, a lot of hand checking. Defense was, needless to say, it was hard for guards to really navigate through that. Whereas now it's catered exactly for that, and then up, and with improved scoring, the NBA has happy about that.
Oh, absolutely. But as a fan, when you look at today's game, and I know for me, that era that you were in and back, and even before that, with Bird, Magic, and all those guys, much more fun for me to watch. But as a fan from your aspect, how do you look at today's game versus the game that you played in?
Well, I mean, it's a lot different now. I mean, as everybody knows, I mean, now you have these free agents demanding trades, migrating to other teams with other superstars, forming super teams. And back then they didn't do that. They pretty much hung around where they were and try to build that team from within, or try to carry that team through the playoffs and hopefully get a championship. But as well as everybody knows, basketball is an evolving sport, and you have to move with the times. And then whatever that trend is going right now, that's the trend they tend to follow.
And now we look at the college game, things like recruiting. That's changed so much as well with the advent of social media. But can you imagine having been in the era today with all the social media and all the hype and all the attention that are paid to these guys, when yet the recruiting class you came in is probably one of the greatest in college basketball history in my mind. But there was no hype, there were no videos and any of that stuff.
Yeah, and that was, I don't know if I want to say it's fortunate or unfortunate, because I think now players are smart about their brand now, and they know how to market and advertise themselves. I mean, with the new age of social media, it's easier to be seen by a lot of coaches, and every game is filmed and put on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or whatever else book is out there. But it's great for them as players now to get that national exposure, or even to get noticed, because everyone's doing it. Back then recruiting was, coaches always seemed to want to go after the top players in the country. Well, nowadays, you can find that diamond in the rough a lot easier now. You don't have to work as hard. You still have to work at your craft, but it's easier for players to be seen and noticed, and for the word to get out that how good these players are, or how good or potentially they could be.
Talking with one of the IU's greats, Greg Graham's with us now. Warren Central High School. Warren Central, they had a great team here the last couple of years as well. They were back up.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, with me leading there and then having Chris come in, I remember having a conversation with him. It was something that he really wanted to do. I felt like I had to know it all to go to our AD and principal and get him in there. And he really, really turned the program around. And for a couple of years there, it was known as a basketball school. Now it's back to football.
Well, they owe you a debt of gratitude for many things, but also for making them what they are today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and one of the conversations that, I had with Chris was, being that I played there and coached there, it was often difficult to get the basketball going and get it noticed. I mean, we had the talent, we had the players, but it took an overall commitment from everyone, from administration to the coaching staffs of all sports, and primarily the football, because, with Jason being the football coach there, it really opened it up to let, some of the football players really contribute and have a focus and spend some time on the basketball side so they can grow and develop and become the good players and the good team that we always thought they could be.
And getting back to the college aspect, you look at there were years where there were teams that just dominated for a couple of years. They would have their great runs, and that's kind of going away with the one and dones and all that stuff. Now we look back at Indiana during like 91 through 93. You guys had 87 wins. That's the most in the history of the Big Ten. And the mind-boggling thing is the team that you guys replaced was the Indiana team from 74 through 76. Probably two of the greatest teams in the history of college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, we were fortunate to have a good run there, a good 3-year run there. And again, you talking about there was no one and dones back then. I mean, could Calvert have left early? Sure, he could. But you know, back then with Coach Knight, you know, it was more of a four-year commitment. And if you commit those 4 years and you have a class that comes in, you know, year after year, you get an opportunity to build something. And fortunately for us, we had a couple guys from our recruiting class that hung in there and stuck around, and we were able to win some games and have some success. And I always tell people again, I tell the old story where Allen Henderson knee injury away from, you know, possibly a national championship.
Yeah,
probably one of the better teams that didn't win a national championship.
You know, I say it all the time, Greg. I think that you guys were absolutely one of the best teams that didn't win. Some unfortunate circumstances there. Trust me, it's something that I talk about a lot because that team was not just a great team, but that recruiting class that came in together in '89 with yourself and Pat Graham and Calvert Chaney and many other, or Funderburk and others. I'm probably Todd Leary, of course. What an incredible class to come in together.
Yeah, that's pretty much unheard of. Well, you see the powerhouse now, like the national soldier of Coach Krzyzewski at Duke. He's doing something similar to that. I mean, we weren't highly touted as some of the recruits that he has coming in next year or that he did last year. But again, you're talking about a good group of guys that came in and made a commitment to stay there and continue to grow and develop and get better each and every year. And we were peaked and primed to win a national championship. Now, I'm not, going to, cry over spilled milk or anything like that. But man, you thought about what we could have done had we had our full deck of cards with us, and and healthy and being able to produce on the floor and compete at a high level. Who knows what could have happened?
Oh, absolutely. And I talk about that class because the bulk and the majority of that class was from within the state of Indiana. You guys were all Indiana high school kids for the most part.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that when we talk about Indiana basketball now, who I have conversations with is one of the things that's so disappointing is that, back then, when you grew up in Indiana and you went to high school there, your thought was, you're going one or two places. You're going to Indiana or you're going to the other school. And you just don't see that anymore. And it's hard to understand, and it's hard to identify the disconnect that the university is having now and then recruiting some of the top players in the state and getting them to stay home. I don't know what it is. I mean, I haven't been around to try to figure it out, nor do I care. But I think primarily Indiana can't get back to that elite level if you just continue to try to recruit the state as hard as you can and bring in some of the best players.
Yeah, absolutely. Archie Miller will be going into his third season next year, but that's what his recruiting focus is, the inside out. And here last year he got Romeo Langford in, and this year Trace Jackson Davis, Mr. Basketball, as well as a kid named Armand Franklin. So the inside out is definitely something that Archie Miller is working on, and a lot of the fans, that's something they want to see. They want to see the kids from Indiana playing with that Indiana jersey on.
I mean, and why not? I mean, they've watched these kids grow up since junior high and high school. Why not to continue to try to watch them at their favorite university? Everybody wants that. I mean, everybody in the state wants it. The fan base wants it, and I'm sure Coach Miller and his staff wants it. The former players, they definitely want it. I mean, we want to see players that we recognize. Now, we're not saying we're going to outcast the players that don't come from the state of Indiana, but to have that good homegrown field and guys that grew up in Indiana and they actually know what the tradition means to the university, what it means to the fan base, what it means to former players and current players. I think when you go into it with that approach, I think good things will happen because no matter what kind of team that you're going to assemble at Indiana University, the fans are always going to be behind you.
Yeah, I've long said that if you could get the core, the best players out of the state of Indiana and just sprinkle in what you need around it, I think you can compete for a national championship each year. I mean, look back at your team again. The guys that weren't from Indiana, like Eric Anderson and Jamal Meeks and Chris Reynolds, they were from right around outside of Indiana.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the bordering. They came from Illinois. It's a bordering state. So it's not too far from Indiana, where they're able to play for a prominent university and a great coach, and also have their family still come down in a short distance away, come see them play every weekend. I mean, that's what it's really all about. It's having your family there to get that support. I mean, you're at a place where you're not too far from home, so you're comfortable. And I think that's what most players are. They want that to be comfortable where they're playing. They want the family support to be able to come and see them play, and they want to play at a school that is on the rise or on the national level, and they're on TV all the time. I mean, that's what they want.
Lou Henson certainly seemed to appreciate it back in those days, the former Illinois coach.
We don't know what happened with Eric Gordon in that situation.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of Eric Gordon, they're having a good run. He's playing for the Houston Rockets as they're trying to lock down a playoff berth into the conference finals. They lost last night, but he's having a great playoff run. I'm not sure if you're getting to follow the NBA playoffs at all.
I always watch them play, and I always like watching Eric play. I had a great connection with Eric. I brought him when I was at the NCAA. I brought him and Greg Oden and Mike Conley. I brought them into that program that we were running at the NCAA. So to see him grow and develop from that dominant high school player that he was into his year at Indiana and then going into the pros. I mean, he had a brief moment there where he had the knee injury, but he seems like he bounced back pretty good.
Yeah, he's doing all right. And, you talk about that of being involved with those kids and having that pride. And Mr. Gordon, Eric Gordon Sr. was just on with us not too long ago. And we talked about the EG Academy, basketball academy that they have, that they're kind of doing the same thing that you did for them. And it's just like a carryover.
Well, obviously, because it was a great program. It was a national program. And what he's doing now is he's taking those players that, around the state who want to develop and wanted to improve on their craft. And, every kid's dream is to go to college and get a scholarship to go to college to play basketball. That's what they really want. And what better place to do that? What better backing and support than to have it from a guy who's done it and is still doing it in the league himself? So it was a great thing that they're doing, and just fortunate that you have a small part in that. It's also humbling.
Now, I got a text into the show. It says for Greg, would you come back to Indiana as an assistant if asked? I know that you probably were taken away to Rhode Island for work reasons, family reasons, whatnot. But would you come to Indiana if an assistant's position opened up and you were asked?
Absolutely. My whole thing is, I never wanted to leave the state of Indiana. Actually, I'm quite homesick out here. Like I said, you appreciate Indiana more the longer that you're away. In my playing days, when I traveled and played a lot, the summers I always came back to Indiana. That's my home, and will always be that. So if an opportunity came about, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with basketball, it's just any job situation right now, I would be on the first thing smoking back to Indiana because I truly miss it. I miss, family and friends, but I miss the fan base and people who know you and can connect with you because they watched you play throughout your career and they know a little bit about you because you're always around and I never had a problem talking to anyone, especially when it comes to basketball and in Indiana basketball for that matter. So yeah, if the opportunity came about, yes, I most definitely would be interested and wouldn't say no.
Thanks to Bill for that text. Well, they definitely could use that because that's the one thing I've noticed on Archie Miller's staff. There doesn't really seem to be any Indiana connection. Derek Elston's a part of that staff, so that's not completely true. But his core is assistant coaches, Bruiser Flint and Tom Schilling, and which he actually coached in Indiana, so that's not completely true either. But I'm talking about from the IU past. There's no really IU connection on that immediate staff.
Well, I addressed that before. You look at the other school and what Coach Painter's doing, and you look at his staff, and most of those guys on his staff played there. And that's where I think the disconnect is because, when Coach Cady, retired, he was able to bring in one of his own. And I really feel like if Coach Knight was still there, or had not been let go, that probably could have happened at Indiana. But because it didn't, it divided the state, actually. And it divided the past and the present. And there's an extreme amount of disconnect there. I mean, there's a lot of former players that still go down to games and they still support, but you can just tell it's just not the right feel, because that's something that should have been passed down. Coach should have been there to elect or point out his predecessor, anywhere along the line, just like Coach K is going to do, just like Coach Williams is going to do, probably Bill Self's going to do the same thing he can. So, I mean, you have coaches in place that, for a long period of time, and not to say you won't give them all that power, but that's how you keep tradition alive. That's how you keep fans interactive with the program and support the program. And, this is not a knock on Coach Miller, Coach Crean, Mike Davis, if any of them, Coach Sampson, but would those guys have that job had Coach been there and was able to, coach out the rest of his career? I don't know. We'll never know that. But
Certainly
that's where the
not.
disconnect is.
The fans certainly, just like they like to see the kids from Indiana play wearing that Indiana jersey. It's always great because there's so many great coaches that are from that tree. I mean, yourself, you've got Dane Fife, who's up at Michigan State, Michael Lewis, who was recently just at Nebraska. Just tons of guys who are out there coaching. AJ Moye, who's been back recently, he's involved in coaching. You could go on and on. There's so many out there, and I just think it would be a great fit. I know they have Ed Schilling, like I said, but he was not a part of the IU culture. More, he's involved with the Indiana basketball side of things, but as far as the state goes. But it would sure seem to be a natural fit to have that IU guy on the staff.
It would, but and this is me frankly speaking, and this is just my opinion. I mean, I don't know how anybody else views it, but I really felt like whether it was administration or the current coach that's there now, there might be a little intimidation factor there. When things are tough or rough or whatever, they don't want to have to look over. I mean, it's all about looking over your shoulder. They don't want to have that part of that part of their career, their job, where they're worrying about a guy that played there and had some success, and now it's on staff, and they're looking over their shoulders because they think he's getting backstabbed or talked about or what have you. So it's a little bit of an intimidation factor. I don't know why coaches wouldn't want to come in and have somebody on staff or be around the program to help them with the recruiting or help them with this. I mean, nobody knows the coaches in Indiana better than I do. I mean, I coached there 8 years of high school basketball. I mean, I've built a great reputation with some of the coaches around the state. And I'm sure there's a lot of other players that are involved in coaching right now that will say and have done the same thing. Would they come back to Indiana? I'm sure they would. If you ask anybody that question, I'm sure they would want to come back and play a part or do something to help the university out.
Are you surprised that hasn't happened?
I'm shocked. And like I said, it's been more than one coach. So you just can't put the blame on just one coach. I mean, it's been several coaches that had that seat since Coach Knight left. And I think the coaches that came to it was Tom Crean when he had Calvert back. But did Calvert have a really prominent role with the staff? I mean, that I beg to differ. Chris Reynolds was in the athletic department. He left.
Yeah, he's now the athletic director at Bradley.
Yeah, and doing great things.
Absolutely.
He's also on the selection committee.
Great points, man. Great points. I cannot thank you enough for coming on, Greg. I got to give a shout-out to your brother, Keith, for helping us with that. But, man, we'd love to have you back in the state. I'm sure that the fans would love to have you back inside of Assembly Hall. There's no doubt about that.
And as much as I want to be back in Indiana, I would love to have an opportunity to come down to Bloomington and see all the wonderful things that have happened since I last been there. Like I said, it was the best time of my life. Not only with my teammates, but just going to school at a university such as Indiana. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, one of the best years of my life, and I'll never regret it.
Greg Graham, one of the greats from IU past. Man, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Look forward to hopefully doing this again in the near future.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, for having me. I really appreciate it, and great show.
Thank you very much, sir. Greg Graham, we'll be back with a lot more here on Indiana Sports Beat. Todd Leary's coming up next from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey sports fans, this is Lily King. Make sure you tune into Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Comes to you here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. And now we welcome in our favorite guest of every Friday, Todd Leary. Todd, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, but do the other people hear you say I'm the favorite guest every Friday?
I make sure that Jake busts that.
You make sure that I'm last so that they don't hear that. I know.
No, I'm kidding. We just finished up with the former teammate of yours, Greg Graham. Not just a former teammate, but a former roommate of yours, Greg Graham.
4 solid years. A lot of Mother Bear's pizzas shared between the two of us. That's for sure.
Yeah, he said you're the only one with a car, so he had to remain friends with you so he could get a ride to someplace.
The process of elimination did not take very long when it came down to checking the boxes. I had transportation, and I quickly became his number one choice, no doubt.
Oh, man, he's up in Rhode Island. You have to come down, get him to come down and bring us some clam chowder from Rhode Island.
Yeah, based on some very poor inside information that I have, I think he might be headed back to Indy sooner rather than later.
Well, he certainly talked about missing it. I mean, he really went into detail about that. He said he's homesick, that he really wants to be back here. So I could really tell when I listened to that. I'm like, man, he really wants to be back in Indiana.
Yeah. I think, he's an Indiana kid. He's a basketball person. You get up there and, like you said, they're into a lot of other things. And he is just, he's just your typical basketball person from Indiana, and he's a great kid, and he worked hard, and he's just a fun person to be around. So it won't surprise me if he's now back here within the next year.
That would be awesome to see. And he really talked about the fact that there's no Indiana person on the current staff. Not that it's a requirement, but in with how Indiana has been and the tradition, and with Archie wanting to run the inside out kind of recruiting focus, that you would think that having an Indiana person on the staff, or someone not just like himself, but there's a lot of other great guys, Michael Lewis or AJ Moye, or just yourself, or just a ton of people that could really do a great job. He mentioned that Tom Crean had Calvert on staff for a while, but even then Calvert was not really a true assistant coach at the time. That's a great point. I mean, there's no true connection for an IU connection on his immediate staff.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of my thought on that goes a little bit deeper, in that I don't think it should just be someone that played at Indiana. I think it should be someone that was from Indiana, and kind of went through, was more in touch with a lot of the things that happened. I know Coach Knight did a lot of things that got national media attention, but locally, I mean, every day something was about Bob Knight. So if someone was from the state of Indiana and had that a little bit more ingrained in their childhood and growing up and what things were like, and they know what the fan base is really like. I mean, not a lot of that has to do with actual playing ability or styles or any of that. It really is just kind of, you can relate to kids, and you understand that, kids from a small town in Indiana, when they go to the grocery store, I mean, people recognize them. And that's just from being from their local high schools. And when it gets to Indiana, it gets magnified. And kids love that. I mean, look at social media today, and kids love for everyone to love on them and recognize them and talk about them positively, hopefully. But just talk about how great they are. They love for young kids to look up to them. And when you're from the state of Indiana and you get to play basketball, especially in small towns like a Damon Bailey situation, that's probably the biggest one you can think of. But Pat Graham's a great example of that from Floyd Knobs. I mean, there are kids when we used to go back down there in the summertime, and I mean, kids, he would walk in the gym, and it was as big as Bob Knight walking in the gym. And to have someone that knows what that was like growing up and what it still is like, it's not just because Bob Knight's gone that it's not that big a deal anymore. It really is. My kids at Carmel, I see how my Carmel Pups teams used to look up to, the high school kids, the Ryan Kleins and those kids, the McRoberts and all of those. I mean, it was such a big thing. And I think having somebody on the staff that understands, yes, what Indiana basketball was like, but what Indiana high school basketball is like also would be a gigantic thing for them to have, to walk into places and when you're recruiting and know what those kids are going through and know what they see. And Indiana the state of Indiana is just different, and it really is. And it's different from a high school level just as much as it is from a college level.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. And it's not like Archie hasn't landed some kids from Indiana. Obviously, he's got Trace Jackson Davis, the current Mr. Basketball, coming in. Got Romeo Langford last year, but they got Romeo by default. He was headed to Louisville. But the recruiting for Indiana has not been stellar, if you want to be frank about it. They've failed to land any of their top targets from outside of the state. It happened again yesterday. A kid from Archie's hometown actually is not only did he not choose Indiana, but he chose Purdue. And I think that there's some recruiting problems right now for Indiana. They got 2 open scholarships and no commitments for 2020. I just see that the recruiting is just not what I thought it was going to be at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talk about this. This is our off-season conversation a lot, but I'm okay with that. I actually hope he has those scholarships, and this might be the time when he figures out. And I'm not saying he hasn't, so don't take this as a criticism, but when he's forced to take a kid that's not ranked in the top 100 across the country, I am going to believe, just like I said last week on the show. I don't think it's great to have a makeup of, 5 or 6 or 7 kids that were all ranked in the top 50 in their class when they came out, because there's just not enough basketballs on the floor and not enough ink in the press for all those guys to be happy. And it kills your team chemistry. And, that's one of the things. I mean, you see kids go to Purdue, they see how much fun it looks like those kids are having. And you can look at Indiana's team last year and, for the majority of the season, we talked about it. They did not look like they were having fun. And that's because that's a team chemistry issue. That has nothing to do with Archie doesn't coach right or anything else. That's guys not playing together and understanding how to play together. You get a bond when you're out there on the floor and in practice every day, beating each other up. And you develop a bond that gets to be pretty darn tight. And, when you're a team that doesn't have that and you play against teams that do, you get beat a lot. And that's what I think I saw on the floor last year for Indiana. And I'm ready for them to have some of those glue guys. I mean, I'm an Indiana nut. So I love the Tom Coverdales of the world. I love the Archie Millers of the world. I love that kind of player. I think really, really good teams have to have that. And, would Tom Coverdale or Todd Leary or Archie Miller would the fan base be insanely excited to have them sign today? No, they wouldn't. They would be, okay, well, that fills the scholarship. We got one more scholarship left. Who's that going to be? But then once, sophomore and junior year, they wouldn't want anything going on the floor that didn't include those players. I mean, when Tom Coverdale would come out, I would be like, all right, we got to get through these next 2 or 3 minutes until he gets back in. And there were, Michael Lewis was the same way. And those guys, I mean, we were all somewhat heavily recruited in our day, but not like kids are today. And I'm ready for them to have some of those glue kids. And I just don't see it yet. I mean, I honestly think Finney is as close as they've possibly come to it so far. And, but I think they need another piece. That's another glue guy. I don't know that Finney can do it by himself. He needs a partner in crime in there.
Absolutely. Tim texted in and said you need to send a resume to Archie Miller. I think your resume speaks for itself. But you talked about that, and I know you always are self-deprecating on whatever, but you were a great player, and your team was full of great players. Obviously, Calvert Chaney wasn't great, but Greg Graham played 5 years in the NBA. Eric Anderson played in the NBA. There were 6-7 guys off that team that ended up playing in the NBA. So you guys had a ton of talent, but you all were able to play within the confines of a team with one common goal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding you. It came down to I think this statement gets abused a lot when people say, I just want to win. We want to win a championship, and I want to come back so we can win a championship. And, like, is there a better story than Kyle Guy? I mean, that guy, everybody, I mean, if you didn't root for that, I know he's from the state of Indiana, so I sound more like a homer, but the story of him getting that in his senior year, that's how my high school ended. Like, we won my senior year, and it was, we were a better team my junior year and we didn't win. And there's just so many things that lead up to that it's such a accomplishing feeling. And, you look at at these teams that are there now. And yes, they've got insane amounts of talent, but I'm not sure that the makeup is there for an actual, team chemistry. And I think that you would probably get a lot of coaches across the country that would say, hey, that didn't work anymore. It's different nowadays. The guys are so much bigger and more athletic. And that to me, that I think that's the coaches that don't get it. Those are the ones who don't, they're drinking the Kool-Aid and buying into the new era and new system. And, you look at the Final Four, we say this almost every week because it proves our point, but you look at the Final Four and it didn't have the Kentuckys and a bunch of one and dones on there. How Duke and Kentucky are not in the Final Four with the talent level they had as freshman and sophomore class speaks enormous volumes, and you can't argue with the numbers. And so, my Indiana teams had insane amounts of talent on them. I mean, you had Sharon Wilkersons of the world and Steve Harts and those guys coming in that all brought different aspects. But when they got there, they learned from the older guys, just like I did, that, hey, our number one goal is to win. Like, you get your points, you get whatever. I can assure you, this is not, I know I kiss Calbert's butt all the time, but I'm telling you, Calbert never worried about any stat that he ever had when we ended a game. And he didn't have to say that. We didn't have to walk in and see if he's looking at a stat sheet. We knew that, and we learned that when we were there. And I think that's the commitment that I don't see on the Indiana team that was there last year. I saw a lot more individual teams, and that's not just Indiana. That's the country in general. And that's why, I think those kids, the smile on Kyle Guy and those kids' faces when they won the national championship was something that you can't buy that. You can't fake that. You can't do a one and done that. Like, that is earned. And that was 4 years worth of practice and commitment, and they wanted to win. And who doesn't want to root for that if you're a true basketball fan?
Yeah, you mentioned Sharon Wilkerson, formerly of Jeffersonville High School, and was coached at Madison Shaw, a small private school down there. But I just saw yesterday that he was now moved over to Madison, so he's in the Hoosiers Conference. So congratulations to Sharon Wilkerson. He continues to move up. But I forgot that's another name that was on those teams. Man, it's crazy the talent that came through there. And, I talked about Greg Graham earlier, a perfect example. But who's someone besides Greg, of course, that you'd like to see on staff that can get Indiana to the places where you think that they can get to?
Michael Lewis,
Yes.
Tom Coverdale, someone like that. Someone that Michael Lewis to me is, Dane Fife, but you're never going to get Dane Fife out of.
Right.
He's not from the state of Indiana, so he kind of goes against my point. But
Michael Lewis is unemployed right now, FYI.
And I'm telling you, Michael Lewis will be a name. What is he right now? 35, 40 years old, whatever he is. I mean, Michael Lewis will be a name that will be a huge Division I head coach down the road. And we'll talk about the fact of, why didn't he grow up in the Indiana system? I mean, Archie's too young to have a guy that he's going to develop that's going to take over after him. I mean, Archie hopefully is going to be there for 25 years, and that would be awesome. But Michael Lewis is a guy I think that we'll talk about one of these days. Dane Fife is exactly the same way. I'm shocked every season that Dane Fife's not the first name that's brought up as the next great assistant, or the next great head coach somewhere, because I think when you just watch Michigan State play and their huddles, and the first guy that Izzo goes to at every single timeout, and the one he talks to during the game the whole time, is Dane Fife. And he's going to be a great coach. Michael Lewis is going to be a great coach. I know there's some that I'm probably forgetting. But I mean, there's plenty of guys out. I mean, Calbert would be great, but I mean, I don't know if it's just right for some of these guys and their timing. Michael Lewis, I don't know what he's doing. I tried to reach out to him, and just find out what he was doing. He and I know each other fairly well, I would say, because of our Indiana tie, but I don't know him personally that well. But I'm a huge fan of his, and I love his gritty style and how tough he was. And I've always been a fan of watching him. So I root for the best for him for sure.
Yeah, I talked to Michael recently. He'll be on the show shortly. But he is somebody that I'm shocked. I'm seriously shocked that they haven't gone out of their way to get him onto this staff, because
here's the same. It's the same way. It's the same way with recruiting players. I mean, Michael, they doesn't have that huge pedigree, or he's not ranked, nationally. I mean, Fife's going to get more recognition because he's at Michigan State and they're playing in the NCAA tournament and they play on ESPN every week. And Nebraska didn't do that. And Michael was with a coach that is not as well known as Tom Izzo. And, it all kind of is the same. It correlates together. The assistant coaches battle a lot of the same stuff as what kids that are not 4 and 5 star recruits battle. And Michael will be one of those that slips through the cracks. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, well, we should have seen that, but we didn't. And I think Michael will get a huge break, and he'll definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah, and it's probably going to come back and bite Indiana in the butt because he's somebody.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't want to say that. I mean, he could be successful somewhere else, and that would be great. And I like Archie's style. I like Archie. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying Michael needs to come in and be on the staff and replace Archie someday. I think Michael will make his own way and do his own stuff. I also think Archie is the right guy for right now. And I think that he will do the right thing. I mean, he'll do great. I mean, I really think this team will be good and fun to watch. I think we're way, way too early in the process to judge that right now.
Well, we'll certainly find out. I was hard on him earlier in the show talking about the recruiting failures, but we'll certainly see. But, Todd, I can't thank you enough, man. I appreciate you as always. Love you to death. Thank you a lot for coming on, brother.
Thanks, brother. Talk to you later.
You bet. Todd Leary joining us as always. What a great way to wrap up the week. Greg Graham, Todd Leary. Man, what a great show. It's been a great week. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot to Jake for keeping us rolling along. I'm Jim Coyle. We'll be back on Monday, and I'll see you on the radio.